This is an update on my Moken 10 kayak that I purchased last year. From my previous videos you saw that I rigged up a trolling motor, Minn Kota trolling motor, to the kayak using a milk crate where it hung off to the side. That was good for last year. I needed something quick to get me through the summer, get me going. But over the winter I decided I want to rework it, make it a little better. So what I did here is I've permanently mounted the Minn Kota motor to the back of the kayak, and I did it by making a bracket out of plywood. And I just used a piece of foam board and cut out the shape that I want, and when I was happy I transferred it onto the plywood and just cut it out and sanded it. It's bolted to the kayak with bolts. There are nuts and washers underneath. I had to install an access plate here in the back so I could get my hand underneath of there to put the nuts and washers on. I modified the standard Minn Kota outboard trolling mount that comes with it by cutting it off here at the front so that it's flat. Lots of people on YouTube have done this with this brand of motor. It's very popular, and I just fastened it to the motor mount with a single bolt. I just used one of the existing Minn Kota outboard mounts, cut the end off of it, and just screws underneath to a blind nut on the bottom. The motor head's been taken off. I replaced it with a sprinkler head, and the only reason I use that is because it was black and it went full with PVC. I extended the wires. So the wires come down here. This is just a covering all the way to this switch that's next to my seat. Inside of here, this is a box I got from Radio Shack. Inside of this is the Minn Kota switch. And I also added a battery indicator. And when you turn it on, it operates the motor. Back to the motor. When it's on the back, I needed a way to release it. So what I've done is built a mount here, a release mechanism. With the help of my friend, I actually came up with this idea, so can't take any credit for this. This is just a picture frame bracket screwed to the standard release here. So it's been reinforced, and there's a piece of rope that goes in it. It comes up to a pulley with a knot and a washer, and that just allows it to release the mechanism without putting the pressure of the weight of the motor on this. It stops just enough to get it going here. And it's just connected with this is a pipe hanger clamp from Home Depot. So this rope comes down here all the way to, I have a handle here, T-handle, and there's the hook there. So to release it, you just give it a tug and up the motor comes. When I want to lock it into position, I simply take this hook here after I pull it tight, and this hook will hook right in this nut here. So I have one back here, so it basically hooks in like this, but to that one right there, and that holds the motor up. The steering, this kayak does not have foot pedals, so there was no way foot steering could be done. So what I did instead, I used a pole, and this is just a mop handle pole, black metal, and I just wrapped this tennis racket tape on the end to make it more comfortable, and that goes back to another pipe hanger clamp that has a 3/8 bolt coming out of it, going through a U bracket that I made out of galvanized metal from Home Depot, and it goes through the mop handle with a screw, and there's nylon washers between this, so everything is quiet. Okay, so it just turns the motor like this. Okay, the power connection comes out of the harness here and goes into the back of the kayak. I know it's hard to see. There's a little hole drilled in the kayak right behind where the seat is. The wires are underneath the kayak on the floor, and they come up and come out in this hatch here. And inside this hatch I have, here's the wires, I have a 55 amp hour sealed battery, and it is sealed. It's actually a wheelchair battery, so it can be mounted on its side. Also, as you can see attached here, down here, this is my transducer. It's a through-haul transducer mount that I made from PVC because I added a fish finder, and you can see the transducer is right here. And I like that design because my temperature sensors work, and I just think you get a better reading rather than going through a through haul and having to worry about gluing it to the bottom and having it come undone. And this is just the Hummingbird PiranhaMAX 170. One thing I did right now is I created a wiring harness so I can connect my fish finder to this battery as well. I don't know if I'm going to run into any type of interference issues when the trolling motor comes on. Some people say I will, some people say I won't. If I do, it's not a big deal. I'll just won't use this connector. I'll just have a separate battery for the fish finder, which is what I did last year. Close this up like that. The other big improvement I did was put on the Jackson Elite seat right here, this lawn chair seat. My friend had one on his Jackson Kota. I liked it, and after looking at his and putting it in my boat, I figured that a way that I could definitely make it work. And how I made it work is I created these footings that are made out of plywood, and just don't lift the seat up here for a minute, and they just sandwiched between the metal and on both sides and the front, and there's a piece of Harmony silent pad on the bottom, and they're rigid, they're strong. And there's another, now I've got this pole mount all up in here now. There's two brackets on the back, also made out of plywood, to fit the shape here, and they're screwed down to the back, and they have a channel cut in them so that the chair will just fit right in the bracket. If I can see with the camera, this pole's messing it up. There we go. And they just snap down, so now the chair can't go nowhere. I will be putting a Velcro strap through this little pad eye here, going around the bar on this side and this side. So that's that. It's a nice addition for fishing. I also replaced, if you don't familiar with the Moken 10, it has a ring, which I have over here. It had a ring coming up out of the center here like that, with a little Tupperware cover on it. And whenever you stand up, because you can stand on this kayak, it's very stable in the water, but there's really no good foot room to stand up. This thing would constantly hit your feet. You'd be standing on an odd angle, and I just didn't like it, so I ended up cutting that out. Took that piece out, there it is, cut out, and I replaced it with a flat 10-inch deck plate, screw-in deck plate. So now I have a very flat area in front of my seat for standing. The other thing I did here, this is I made this little stand and assist handle because I like standing. It's just a piece of deck cord going around a T handle that just goes in around this little cleat here, and just up grab onto it, stand up, and when I'm not using it, it just sits right there. I replaced the front came with these type of fishing rod holders in the front as well. I took them out in the front. Replace them with these Scotty flush mount. I'm gonna put a camera mount on one side, and I'm gonna put another type of fishing rod holder on the front. Just don't like the fishing rod holders. I'm probably, as you can see this tape here, I think I'm gonna put the spare, that was the set of rod holders like this that were in the front, back here. So I actually have 4 rod holders in the back, and I can use one for my net. So that's it. Can't wait to get out and try. Oh, one more thing. Last year I got into a situation where a place I fish, there's a lot of grass and lily pads, and a couple of times I got hung up. Now, it wasn't a big deal when the motor was mounted on the side because I could just lift the motor up and pull them off with my hand. Now that the motor is all the way to the back, I won't be able to do that. I'll have to raise it up, paddle ashore, and unclog it. So I know I needed like some sort of weedless prop. So at first I was just going to get the Minn Kota weedless wedge, which they sell for about $17, but as I was doing it, reading the reviews, Amazon and some other forums, some people recommended this type of prop. This is the Kipawa 314 prop, and it's supposed to be very efficient. It says 99% weedless, but it's supposed to actually improve performance. Some people have even said they've gotten 1 mile an hour faster. So I think I'm going to do a separate video on that when I do the trials. I'm going to do a speed test because I do have all 3 props. I have the standard prop, the Minn Kota weedless wedge, and this Kipawa 314. So I think I'm going to do a separate video where I do speed readings with the Android speedometer on all 3 props. So because I couldn't find any real good YouTube videos where people were using this prop right here. Other than that, I should be able to do some trials next week, so we'll find out how everything works. Overall, I'm pretty happy though. Only thing I need to do now, I think, is I would like to make a GoPro mount pole, probably right here where this screws in, coming up, so I can have my GoPro looking down on the kayak. So other than that, that's it. Let me know what you think. If you got any ideas, I appreciate it. Thanks.